Hi, this is Ruth Theresa with One Inspiring Woman, and I am really excited to see you guys this evening. I know people are going to be jumping on in just a few moments, but we are going to be talking about something that's really exciting and something different that kind of we really haven't been through in our lifetime. So this is kind of an interesting sign for most of us. We are talking about the Pluto return. And so I've been doing a lot of research on this and kind of like backstories and kind of other information. So I'm hopefully going to do this as concise as I possibly can. So I'm really excited about that. And then, of course, I will be doing my angel cards as well, get you a little bit deeper insight. And then make sure that you are letting me know that you're here. Say hi. Let me know that you're around. The other thing is, if you have questions, please ask them. It's one of those. This is something that I hadn't heard about too long ago. And I was just kind of like, I really have to figure out some new information on this. And so I had to wear my Valentine's Day shirt because this is our last one before Valentine's Day. So, hey, Miss Gigi. Yeah, because next Monday is Valentine's Day. So happy Valentine's Day to you guys. So one of the things that I did that I was supposed to do during my group reading, my New Year, New You group reading, I was supposed to pass these out and I completely forgot. So I will get to pass them out. I'll be seeing some of my clients over the next few weeks. And so everybody will get to say those. Hey, Miss Madi, how are you doing? So I am so excited to be with y'all and kind of explain Pluto return for you guys. I'm going to clear my energy. This is my 2022 spray. So get my energy clear. I have been having an awful lot of people hang on to my energy way longer than they're supposed to the last few days. So that is something really interesting. So Pluto return. Hey, Miss Sandra, is really an interesting time. So I'm going to explain it this way because I think it makes a little bit more sense. Hey, Miss Jody. So Pluto, because it is such a planet so far out in the solar system, it takes 248 years to do one cycle around the Earth. Not Earth, sorry, around the sun. So that's kind of the fun, interesting part. Let's say like Mercury goes around the sun every 88 days. So one almost every 90 days on Earth, Mercury has gone around the sun one time. So that's kind of like an interesting. Hey, Miss Carmen and Miss Brittany. So this is a really interesting thing because Pluto, it spends so much time in each sign. We're kind of going back to that sign that it was in 248 years ago. So let's talk about Pluto itself. Pluto has some very amazing energy. Pluto is hey, Miss Megan, let's see, is really a going into Pluto return is really talking about like an enormous cosmic rebirth. It's going to bring up some very magical, mystical energy. And some of it is kind of like, well, what does that look like for us? No one knows. No, like you can tell what the stars are going to do or what alignment they're going to be in, but how it is going to affect each person, nobody knows. That's the crazy part. Let's see. Pluto is the planet of death, rebirth. It is all about social skills. It will affect our social media. It will be kind of giving us the authorization to make our own new choices of like what choices do we want to make, what changes do we want to make in our world. But it's also going to affect governments. The further out the planet is, the more it's going to affect bigger entities. Mercury and Venus affect people because it's so close to us. It's affecting the people. It may affect a little bit of the government, but it's really not going to affect them all that much. Where it's really going to affect us is the further out they go. And Pluto is about almost as far out as you could go. And so it's one of those. So Pluto is going into the sign of Capricorn. We're going to talk about all of this. But the last time Pluto was in the sign of Capricorn was 248 years ago. If you don't know, 248 years ago was 1776 for us. And so that's what we're going to be talking about, is kind of like this death and rebirth. So kind of the death of it is, we, at that time frame before that, we were a colony of England. That's what America was. We were a colony of England. And at some point we were like, we're out of here. We're not doing this anymore. We feel like we're being taxed without any representation. Boston Tea Party, whole bunch of other stuff, Paul Revere, all that kind of stuff coming in and making a lot of changes for us. And so that kind of really was going on during that time frame. And because Pluto is around us for such a long period of time, this has the opportunity to change governments, to change countries. Okay. So this is kind of an interesting thing. And so then I started looking at, because everybody keeps talking about the United States having its Pluto return, which is really important. Yet at the same time, I'm kind of like, okay, so where was Pluto in England sign? Where was Pluto in Italy or Germany, or, I'm saying, kind of like some other countries, French, kind of like, where are we going with this? Kind of where are these other Pluto returns and what happened then? And so I did a little bit of research, and I will be doing a couple of videos on this to hopefully give you a little bit more guidance. It will stay in the sign until 2024. So it's been kind of getting stronger as it comes in, because it's kind of getting ready for that alignment. It'll stay in the alignment for about 2.5 years-ish and then it'll pull out of that alignment. And so who knows what we're going to get on the other side. It's kind of like we've got all the ingredients to make changes and to make some new agreements with governments and changing and all that kind of stuff. So we don't know what it's going to look like on the other side. The other thing I thought was really interesting is, because it only happens every 248 years, none of us have ever been through this. That's kind of the you're right. It's kind of like the Ukraine and Russia. And so that's what I've been doing research on, is kind of like, how does it affect each country when it hits there, especially like Italy or England, that's been around for, thousands of years. So it's kind of like a long, long period of time, like how they've been through so many Pluto returns. How does that change things? Pluto kind of reigns over like mystery. So things are going to happen very mysteriously, or kind of like all of a sudden it's going to be like, wow, there's a whole bunch of changes. What just happened? And so that's kind of something to kind of keep track of. Not that it won't affect people. It's not going to affect people near as much as it's going to affect governments and countries, continents, that sort of thing. That's where we're going to see a lot of it coming in. Let's see. Okay, so Pluto return really speaks about like making gigantic changes for the United States. Astrologically, in history, this kind of forces us to kind of like come up, kind of like bring out our hidden stuff, kind of the stuff that we've been throwing in the closet, kind of like the skeleton in this closet. It's like, we don't want to talk about that part. Those things are going to be coming out. Those things are going to be appearing more and more, and people airing their grievances, feeling unjust about certain things, and kind of really like a total reshuffle on the United States energy. Not to scare you, it's just one of those, it's like really interesting, because a lot of times people think like, oh, it's really, really scary. We don't know how it's going to affect everybody or how it's going to affect the governments. Just know that this is a time of change. So it's kind of like, okay, there's change coming ahead. There could be external crisis. There could be change in governments, and it could be change in leaders. The Canada truckers protest, like all of that is part of this, and kind of people standing up differently than they have in the past. This is going to be a time where you're going to have a rise of strong rulers come up, especially if the rulers seem to be weak. You could possibly have a change in rulers all of a sudden. Some Pluto returns can also be a mixture of like many different concepts. It could be a crisis, it could be a threat, it could be a new rulers coming around. So all of that could be in play. We just don't know what's going to happen. And that really depends on like the sign of each person, their ascendant and descendant signs, all of that kind of plays in this, but it also plays into everybody who's a part of it. So that's kind of like the interesting kind of like, interesting. Pluto return can kind of like signify like changes of empires, changes of government, huge changes of guard, that sort of thing. But it can also be a huge change of new beginnings. You think of like the United States. 248 years ago, we decided, okay, England, we're tired of this, and we're going to do our own thing. And so this kind of brought a lot of change to the United States, and kind of like now we got this brand new beginning in all of this. And so it's kind of like, what have we done with that? Kind of that sort of that energy. So interestingly enough, the United States has Pluto in Capricorn in its second house, which is the house of money, property, security, and value. Capricorn is a sign of infrastructure, industry, kind of like living your dream life. One of the things I found really interesting was each of these concepts are like closely related to kind of like values that we value highly in the United States. So we, living the American dream, kind of doing our own thing, that sort of is going to be very interesting for a lot of us. And I will tell you, this kind of brings up a kind of some interesting energy. When I was reading about it, kind of like brought up some deja vu of kind of like, okay, this sounds like the 2022, the Grand Conjunction, and it does a little bit, but this is going to change differently or change us in a different way. You're talking about like when all of this was kind of getting ready for the alignment, we have the age of Aquarius start. We have a lot of summer protest in 2020 about injustices, along tense pressures of like the 2020 presidential election, and how all of that affected everybody and how we think about elections now. Kind of like, okay, if, we thought this person was going to win or this person was going to win, and there's a lot of people that don't know. And so that kind of puts a lot of like doubt in our mind. Does our vote really count as much as we thought it did? So that's something to just think about. With Pluto being so slow moving in orbit, it's really going to be bringing each of us to some different things. So if there's something in you that you've been kind of hiding or putting back during this time frame, it is going to be coming forward. It is going to be changing. A lot of people really don't like change, and change can be very scary for some people. My thing is like, we don't know how it's going to change things or how it's going to modify things, but that's kind of, to me, kind of like, I don't want to say scary, but kind of the interesting part of like, how is this going to change us? How is this going to change the United States as a whole? Let's see. So one of the things that's kind of really interesting that I found a lot of people were talking about when I was reading articles about this, and really talking about this, literally we have had kind of like this great resignation in the United States. During the great resignation for 2020, 4 million people left their jobs in April, followed by 3.6 million people in May, 3.9 million in June, and 3.98 million in July. This is the highest ever since we've been keeping track of like how many people have left their jobs. And so this is kind of like, wow, how is that going to change everything? A lot of people change jobs into something else, but some people haven't. So that's kind of like an interesting sign. It's kind of like, how is this going to change us or continue to change us? Let's see. If y'all have any questions over this, I am hopefully ready to answer those questions. And then I've got some angel cards as well. So we're talking all things, hopefully Pluto return. So this is I thought it was really interesting, but I'm kind of a geeky person. So I kind of thought it was really interesting. Let's see. This is kind of like one of the things that I thought was really interesting is how Pluto kind of reflects itself, reflects kind of some of our deepest fears. So kind of like, what is your deepest fear about the United States or different governments? Was kind of like, are they strong? Are they on your side? Are they not on your side? all of those kind of deepest fears may be coming out. A lot of people I hear for many, many years of, when someone's running for office, they promise us everything. And then when they get into office, they forget everything. And that's kind of like our hidden fears, or kind of like our hidden agendas. We're kind of like, he didn't tell us that he wanted to do this, or she didn't say she wanted this, and now she's changing her mind, or she's changing what she's promised that she was going to do. Most interesting is kind of the secrets kind of behind the scenes are really interesting, and kind of like, how is that going to change us? Pluto rules over really over Scorpio, which is really a tough energy to rule over. Scorpios are very sharp, and they're always in pursuit of something deeper, kind of like, what else can I find, or what else can I work through? I would say one of the things that I found that was most interesting to me is warning for kind of like a lot of countries is take note of like where your placement is. Every country's placement is for Pluto, and kind of like, where is that up and where are the signs are. And because Pluto is in this sign anyway, it's going to affect the United States because we're in our Pluto return, but it's going to affect all the countries to an extent. And so you may see a lot of energy in play, or a lot of countries kind of going through some type of turmoil over the next couple of years. It doesn't mean it's going to be overthrown. I just like going through some turmoil, or kind of like the skeletons coming out of the closet. So that's kind of a really interesting. Pluto returns are very, very rare because it takes 248 years. So we will never see another Pluto return in our life. And I will tell you, one of the things I thought was really interesting, I was thinking about it last night, is we chose to come back at this time frame. Isn't that interesting? Like, we chose to be here. We chose this time frame to reincarnate and to come back to Earth and to be a part of this. So somehow all of us are a part of it as well. So that's kind of interesting. So it's kind of like, in some interesting way, we are working with all of this energy. So don't necessarily like, oh, I've got to cut and run. It's really interesting to do this, to get that energy. See, this is going to affect big companies. One of the other things I thought was really interesting, it's going to affect companies that's been open for long, long periods of time, almost like they're their own government, big corporations, that sort of thing. And there are some corporations and some companies that have been in the United States for long, long periods of time. And so it will also affect them almost like a government as well. A couple of the countries that I really looked up that I thought was really interesting, I did England, Germany, France, and Italy. I will do some others. I did look into Russia a little bit, but then I was like getting a little bit late, so I didn't want to do it when I'm really tired. England has had 3 Pluto returns since 1066. England's had 3 returns. The first one was in 1313 to 1314, again in 1560 to 1562, and then again in 1808 to 1810. It's one of those, I got a chance to kind of do a little bit of digging, and I'm not going to go into history like too much, but the first one in 1313 was a very critical period. The reign of King Edward II. He was regarded as very weak, and a very distracted ruler. And then there were a lot of things that went on during this time frame. There was a great famine during that time frame as well. Let's see. And 1/10 of England's population passed away in the plagues during that time frame. So I thought that was interesting as well. When England had their second Pluto return in 1560, let's see, that's when Queen Elizabeth came to power. And then you're kind of dealing with Mary, Queen of Scots, Mary, Elizabeth, all of that kind of energy going on, and all of that turmoil that it brought in as well. So that was kind of like, very interesting. Very interesting. So I thought, like, okay, this is kind of an interesting phenomena of all of this energy in play all at the same time. The next one for England was the in 1808, and that was kind of like the Industrial Revolution. It was talking about like making radical shifts in their society from kind of going from like farmer to like city really quickly and kind of going into that industrial revolution like very, very quickly. This also encompasses Napoleon's attempt to restructure European economies. So that's what I'm saying. We got the play of money in there as well. Let's see. So the hardcore dates for us to know is kind of like it starts on February 22nd, hits us again in July, and then it hits us again in December, and then it'll start to ease up, but it will continue to affect us for probably next year and a half to 2 years is what everybody kind of agrees on that part. Any questions? I know this is like a really interesting kind of like, okay, this is interesting. I wasn't expecting this for tonight. Let's see. Trying to get y'all some good stuff here. I enjoyed all of it, but I am a history geek. So especially when it comes to world history. And I've had many lifetimes in many different places. So that was like really interesting. Okay. One of the ones is Italy has had many returns. Actually, their latest one was their 11th Pluto return, and that came in 1947 to 1949. And that was really in Italy, you had the Nazis in there. You had World War II going on. You had a lot of Americans, a lot of British people, all in that area. And Italy almost got overtaken by so many different countries during that time frame. So it was really kind of like this really interesting energy. It's one of those. It will be an interesting energy as we kind of come up and come closer to this. Energy as well. Let's see. Any questions? I looked up a couple of others like Greece. I started my little bit of energy with them. I just thought it was really interesting. I will do, I think, one on each country and kind of like what's kind of gone on during that time frame, because I was just like, as you can tell, I was totally fascinated by it. Okay, so Gigi's asking, how will Pluto return affect personal finances? Will money flow in or out? I kind of feel like money will flow out, and that really comes in a lot with energy that we're dealing with now is kind of like the inflation part of it. If you still not that money won't count for anything, but money's going to change. And I do feel like like with inflation, it's one of those, what cost $5 yesterday costs $6 today. And so money's not going to go as far, but I do feel like at the end we'll be on a better ending of it. So that will be something kind of like an interesting trait for a lot of people. So it's one of those, not that you shouldn't use money, but make sure that you're using it in the right ways. And I get with that with money is to kind of keep your money as your friends. So many people kind of treat their money not really nicely. Sometimes people fib about their money. Sometimes a lot of people will end up hitting this energy really harshly, and it won't, I'm saying, like, especially money, they'll hit it wrong or they'll lie about it. So make sure that you're being truthful about your money, but always keep your money in flow at the same time. Money in flow is very important. And like, I'm not saying like you can't have, like an extra couple $100 in your sock drawer or whatever else, but make sure that you're using some of that money and then replenishing it. So it's still in the flow of money. It's not just like stagnant. Money does not like to be stagnant at all. Brittany's asking, do you recommend any rituals to do during the Pluto return with the energy provided? One of the things I would say is I have gotten several messages over this. And to me, the one in July is, I think, going to be kind of the harsher one to deal with, because this is going to kind of kick things into gear. But the one in July is going to be like, oh my gosh, this is kind of like really crazy energy. I would say anything that you can cleanse out, anything that you can remove or push out of your way is going to be easier. But I would do a ritual cleansing of especially your money. You want to cleanse your money. You want to cleanse anything that you've been holding on to. And then if there's any hidden things that you've been hiding, like I haven't told everybody the secret or whatever else, that sort of thing, that's something that you're going to want to kind of like come out at your own time instead of it bursting out when you don't want it to. That's going to be really interesting. So let me pull a card for that for you, Brittany. I've got two popping for this one. Emerging. So this energy is going to kind of just feel like it just keeps growing, kind of, it just kind of keeps going and going and going. So that's kind of what I get. And to be on the right side of that, you want to make sure that you are on the right side of the energy and cleansing it off. Because if you're emerging, the old stuff is coming off. So you want to encourage that old stuff to come off as well. And the next one is, hi, Miss Jessica, is our guardian angels. We literally, I'm going to reiterate this, we chose to be here during this time frame. Listen to my lips. We chose to be here. We chose to go through this. And it doesn't mean that it's good or it's bad or anything else, but we have the energy to get through this. We are already innately born with this. And even if you're going like, I'm just learning about my abilities, well, then you were meant to learn about your abilities during this time frame. If you've been working on your abilities and working on meditation, that's what you should be doing. What you feel led to do is what you should be doing right now. So making sure that you are cleansing out your space, cleansing out your money is going to be the best thing that you can do to kind of make everything keep flowing. One of the things that I thought was really interesting is several people called this Pluto return a great revealer of energy. And so that's something to kind of like, if you feel like you need to reveal something to someone else or tell someone, and that doesn't mean you need to spill everything, but if there's something you're like, wow, I really do feel like I need to come clean with this, then I would definitely do that. But there may be some other things that require keeping hidden for a period of time until things kind of move around, or that it's time to kind of open up that energy. Like I said, we are going to be most affected in financials. We are going to be affected by laws and our leaders. Basic form of structure may come. You may see a lot of old laws being let go of and some new laws coming up. And so that's an interesting energy as well, of kind of like putting up with this kind of like, what is the energy out there? And make sure, like, no, I think we have election coming up in the next couple of weeks. Make sure that you're participating, anything that you can do, and go into the voting booth with the idea of my vote counts. Not, my vote's not going to count or whatever it is. Going in there with the right energy is going to be what you really want to understand. That's really interesting for most people, is that the right energy is coming through, the correct energy is coming through, and your vote is going to be counted along with everybody else's. That's something that's really important to kind of keep a hold of that energy as well. I know a lot of people are going to feel, not only with this, a lot of people are going to feel it, of feeling this growing kind of like energy of unrest, kind of socialization. You're going to see changes with like Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and all of those. You're going to see a lot of new laws coming into affect those as well. And some of that's more the grand conjunction energy, but you're going to see that even more with Pluto return. And then it's one of those kind of equaling out kind of the energy. You're going to see a lot new players come in and kind of take over some areas that people have not been in for a while. And really kind of TikTok kind of grew up in this Pluto energy, which is really interesting. Pluto energy has, like I said, has been around. It's been about a year, almost 2 years on our planet, kind of amping up. And now we're in the height of that energy as well. Let's see. So actually, what this one says is America's Pluto return actually started November 26th, 2008, when Pluto entered Capricorn, which is the same sign that it's in for the United States, and that's the sign it was in 1776. Let's see. February 22nd, 2026 marks the when Pluto entered the exact same sign in 1776. So that's going to be interesting, which is kind of like going to be pushing a lot of energy that way. The question on everybody's mind is, of course, is like, when will this Pluto energy end, and kind of like what is it going to look like on the other side? Pluto actually enters the next energy of Aquarius on March 23rd, 2023, but it will step back into retrograde a couple of times back into Capricorn until November 19th, 2024. So it's going to come back a couple of times to kind of like, are you sure you like this? Are you sure you want to do this? It's going to be changing a lot of information. Anybody else with any questions? I'm going to do some general questions that I get for Pluto return. This is the first one. Children, and they go through this one more time. Like, we chose to be born during this time frame. We chose to come on this planet as children when we were born, so we could be here for all of this. Is there okay, sorry, I didn't even read Carmen's up here. Carmen says, is there a great consensus on how the world in general and the United States in particular will come out of all of this? No, there is no consensus at all. Like I said, it is completely all, everything is in play, and it really depends on our leaders, who stays leaders, who doesn't stay leaders, who we vote in, who we don't vote in, all of that kind of stuff. And that's why I tell people, when I go into the voting booth, I literally am praying for not only myself, but every person that's going to be affected by that person. And I ask my angels and guides to help me pick the right person. So I know that sounds really strange, but I also body test them as well. So it's a really great thing to kind of keep that energy in flow, because it's not just about one person, it's about all of us. We're all in this together. Manifestation. There are going to be a lot of people that will really resonate in this energy, that a lot of people that will manifest a lot of money during this time frame, but you have to be in the right frame of mind to do this. If you are repelling money in any way, it's going to flee, is going to like just leave. It's not going to hang out at all. So that's something really interesting to kind of understand. If you are repelling money in any way, it's going to stay away from you. Focus. What are you focusing on? If you're focusing on this is going to be chaotic and horrible and that sort of thing, that's what you're going to get more of. If you start thinking about it like, I want our government to be stronger than ever, and I want this to happen, and I want that to happen. Focusing our energy on that is going to really strengthen a lot of that for us. Any other questions? I know we're a couple of minutes over. One of the statements that I found that was really interesting is these are external. We will be going through external crises, possibly some changes of government, some changes in like how we work and deal with our government. And then it may also go into kind of like how the rulers rule and how they communicate and deal with us as well. So that's kind of like an interesting little side note. And Pluto return will have some of each of this in there. So we go through it hardcore in the United States, but every country is going to be dealing with this energy with Pluto in this sign for the next couple of years or so. And like I said, I will be doing a whole bunch of videos on this to hopefully get y'all a little bit deeper insight and get you a little bit more background story. does my Okay. Um, any other questions? Anything else I can answer for you? I should be on next Thursday. We are kind of moving and changing, and I will be also doing a celestial meditation that night before I get on. So that will be a really good one and kind of amping up this really positive energy before we get into Pluto in retrograde on the 22nd. This energy is going to be really high. It's going to be really pushing a lot of people. So make sure that you know where you belong and really work on like cleansing out a lot of energy around you so that it doesn't affect you badly. Okay, guys, I thank y'all so much for joining me tonight, and I will see y'all next week. If not before, I'll talk to you soon. Bye.